got T-minus 60 seconds to this race start, and it's going to be a good one. We've got Fearagent versus Zelgadissan, or Zelgadissan. I don't know. Everybody calls him Zelga. I'm Esmar. With me is Homemade Beer.
Hey, Esmar. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Well, I didn't say welcome to everybody. I try to fly by the seat of my pants on these, and sometimes my pants are a little slippery, but that's all right. This is going to be round 2 of the whole tournament. So both of these guys knocked out their opponents in round 1. Clean 2-0s, both of them. And this is game 2 of that second round. Zelga is already up 1 over Fear.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this match. It should be exciting. Both very good runners.
Yeah, we've got Minish Link on the left, which I know a lot of people are don't like seeing. It's just kind of spooks them to see such a small and vulnerable hero. And of course, the larger-than-life hero on the right-hand side, Mr. Phoenix Wright himself.
Objection. Sure.
So we have the standard start here. So the uncle is going to give us a weapon, but we do get this little bonus item in this first chest here.
I think that was a new uncle text I haven't seen. Chasing
I
tail,
honestly
fly
just
ladies,
tuned it
do
out.
not follow.
Probably the uncle feels bad that I never listen to what he says anymore.
Yeah, it's easier when it's just one line, right?
Cane of Samaria start, one of my favorites.
Yeah, I feel like we've been seeing a lot of those in the last few races I've been watching from this main tournament.
Yeah, it's also a nice one to see as a runner. It's a good item to have for later in the game. It gives you some nice options to not have to hunt for it, as well as being a very useful item for the initial escape sequence itself. It's a good weapon.
Yeah, it's a good item that breaks the game in so many ways. There's so many dumb things you can do with the cane, you know. Like
I mean,
refill your
it's
magic.
usually the last item that you get.
Yeah. Walk through walls. What else can you do? Pretty much anything.
One of my favorite uses for the cane is the spin strats on Ganon.
Yeah, spin strats. That's super cool to watch especially when someone executes it really well.
Yeah, it's very tricky, but very swag. Yeah, also worth noting, we did see a heart container in the uncle's house. That is going to be one of only 14 hearts, or I suppose 10 additional hearts that these runners are going to be able to collect before they start turning into almost useless money.
Yeah, and we also did see them kill some guards early in the Uncle Escape hallway to find that it is only a money drop, so the guard... Did I say uncles? Well, guards, whatever. Guards will not be dropping bombs.
Yeah, so that's one of those things that's really important to have in your bag of tricks, is knowing those drops, especially for a standard game mode kind of tournament, because it's going to be relevant in almost every single seed.
Yeah, I mean, the best case scenario is you know what the drops are and you don't get bad RNG that your opponent, you both don't get bombs or you both do get bombs.
Yeah, the bombs, of course, being necessary to open the back of escape treasure trove with 3 chests in there. Especially if you don't end up getting the mitts a glove for some time. You'd like to get those early on, if possible. Sometimes it isn't. It's very rare for it to not, be possible at all, just because there are so many opportunities for you to get bombs, but it's far from unheard of. And you'd like to find that out as soon as possible. So knowing those drops is good information to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Knowing the guards don't have bombs, they also know the snakes don't either. So their last chance here is either the Dark Cross Room or killing the rats on the way to...
Oh, you gotta call them mice. If you call them rats, they're not gonna give you bombs.
Squishing the mice. That sounds even more mean. Okay, I take it back.
You gotta fist bump the mice.
With giant red blocks.
I was just petting him. I was just petting him, George. And so Zelga was a little bit spoodier through the prison sequence. Now onto the sewer escape. I'm not sure why there's a passage that leads to the sewers behind the throne room of all places. Like literally hidden behind the throne. Unless it's that kind of throne, you know.
Yeah, you don't call it a throne in your home?
Well, I don't have a red carpet leading up to it. I'll say that.
Not yet, anyway. It's an upgrade.
It's a work in progress. The apartment's kind of small right now. And just as you said, we're looking at those mice. Doesn't look like those mice are being very nice today, however.
Yeah, that looked like an arrow drop.
Yes, it did.
And or nothing for fear, because you know RNG. Why not?
That mouse always drops a small key. Thankfully, if it didn't, nobody would play this game.
Well, they could just hang out, you know, underneath the throne.
But that does mean that this is one of the. I sort of overspoke. It's not exactly rare to see something like this, but you usually expect at least one of those things to bail you out and give you a bomb by that point, or, you know, find the boots. That's another option. But either way, we're going to come back here. Great consolation prize, as the flute is sitting there right before we head into Kakariko. So I'm actually okay with that.
Yeah, it's kind of a couple things you want to see before heading into CAC in order to clear it out. It's, you know, basically the flute in a bottle is pretty ideal.
Yeah, I'll take getting the flute before CAC if I can't open that back of escape. If I've got to route that back, excuse me, if I have to route that back in later, that's actually not awful, just because it is a quick 3 checks, and if you've done it the way that these runners both have, you know your opponent hasn't gotten it either, so you know it's no big loss.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, hi, bombs.
And yeah, and they're the bombs. That's great, actually, because we do need those for the village.
Yeah, this is about the time in the seed where they only find bombs for the next 4 minutes. After not getting in them. If you got them in escape, then you don't really find them anywhere after that, so we'll see.
But getting them from a tree pull is kind of nice, because if you get a bomb pickup, say from a like if those 10 arrows had been, you know, triple bombs, you know, that's nice, but then you do, you know, run out by the time you're done with the village, so you sort of have to consider buying some. Here, they'll actually have the option to maybe just use their last one on Mini Moldorm and not even dip into that shop. Given that they have 300 rupees, though, they probably will go to the shop anyway just to fill up.
Looks like Fear just piping his way through the forest there. You imagine he's skipping while he does this?
Oh, you know, he is Minish. You know, he's got to make up that speed somehow. Can't just be walking. He's moving.
Would you consider it frolicking?
Oh, for sure. I know Fear is a very frolicsome fellow.
Nice mirror and blinds and cape
Yeah.
as well. Okay.
Mirror and cape. The cape showing up before either glove or hammer is worth noting, because that does allow us to walk through the magic barrier preventing access to Aga's tower. It's I wouldn't think about it too hard yet. We still have yet to see a sword or the lamp, which is required to put it into logic, let alone the moon pearl, which is required to do anything slightly interesting afterwards.
Yeah, also gives them access to that bumper ledge check. And oh, look, there's the bombs.
And we do see the blue cane too in the back of well, not nearly as impactful as the red cane. Oh, okay, there's a glove. So that could lead directly back to whatchamacallit, back of escape. I would expect that this goes all the way through, you know, the usual South Shore checks. By that point, you know, you might. Well, I guess we do have logical mountain access with the flute. But if for any reason they were to want to climb up the mountain, that would be a good time to go back to Sanctuary and check back of escape, rather than rushing it right away.
Yeah, we definitely have seen a lot of different openers in this tournament so far, and I think, like what you said, it's especially with the flute, it's easy to just go head down to South Shore, grab the dam and mini Moldorm cave right away. What is it? 7 checks there, and then, you know, make a decision based on what you find.
Yeah, the flute actually makes it a little bit trickier to get back to the back of escape, if only for the fact that it gives you it makes more other options better. For example, you know, if your only way to get around the world quickly is to save and quit, well then, you know, just go to Sank and pop over there. But if you can flute around the world, it's like, okay, well, I could go to the back of escape, or I could flute to 5 and go check Sahasrara and dip into Eastern or something like that. And that would be really quick too.
Yeah, with the flute, it gives you a ton of options, like you said. So it's kind of good and bad because you got to make the choices where you want to go. But it's definitely good for overworld movement, just much more streamlined.
There's a hammer. That's this is a kind seed so far. Given how free those gloves were too, that does mean that the items that are in the back of escape can be counted upon to be very early accessible. Wow. Okay, that's a great dam. That is a hot dam right there.
Damn good. Fine there.
So we have the flute and boots 10 minutes into this seed, as well as hammer and a glove. No sword, but I think that's no problem for either of these guys. We don't even need that to do Aga right now, because we've got technical Dark World access. We don't need to activate that portal for any reason.
Yeah, that's true. And the only scenario now for them is if Moonpearl's on Pyramid Lead, which is
or something
extremely rare.
Neither of them checked it, and with those boots, that item is now accessible as soon as Aga is defeatable. Given that we're still missing a sword and the lamp being logically expected before, you know, you can do it without the lamp, but the game considers the lamp accessible before it blocks any items behind Aga. Since we haven't seen either of those, again, it's not something to think about too hard here. Zelda playing a little bit with fire. If any of those crabs touches him, he's gonna be toast. He playing literally with fire, rushes into those bombs.
Yeah, with that hammer too, and the mirror that they got earlier, they have access to Hera and all of East Death Mountain at this point. So it's been a fair amount of checks up there. A good reason to go up there at this point.
Okay, yeah. So it looks like Fear skipped out on Ice Rod Cave, and is going straight back to the back of escape here. The book and the first sword. That is exactly why you don't want to leave that until later. Because again, it's very early accessible with that, you know, Sphere 0, as it were, glove. The game expects those to be available for basically the entire seed. So
yeah, exactly.
It's free to hide basically whatever it wants there. In this case, being those boots, or not the boots. Sorry, I was thinking about the fact that we can do bonk rocks now with the sword. And the boots were actually really nice for that, because then that allows you to, you know, wrap this check in with it, the bonk rocks quick here.
Yeah, this is a nice way to do this, like, because they skipped it early, they're not wasting time going back. It's faster to run up here with the boots on your way to do other things.
Yeah, and I imagine we're going to see the lumberjack check, you know, just in case, because this is the last time they're going to be anywhere near here. Since we have the boots, it's A, quick to check, and B, relevant in case we need those 10 arrows, but I don't think we're ever going to be that desperate for a refill. And straight up the mountain.
I actually missed both lumberjack checks. I'm guessing
it was 10 arrows. It was 10 arrows.
Yeah, I mean, it never is anything, so.
Unless you don't check it. But yeah, this is actually, you know, you'd think that this is a little early to go to mountain, but we have the hammer and we have the mirror. So that's actually full access to all of Paradox Cave. And if there are Mitts and Pearl here, then we can check Super Bunny too. So there's actually potentially a lot of value for a mountain play, which is kind of unusual this early in a seed.
Yeah, it definitely feels like one of those seeds that it's trying to tell you, hey, you should come up to the mountain and check out what's up here.
Yeah, and it's not a super unorthodox loadout for it, but you know, one of the big hints for a lot of people would be the Hookshot, because there's the Pearl.
Okay,
so that's amazing. Even if this was all we were grabbing, this would be great.
It's kind of a weird situation if they want to do Spike Cave, which is now in Logic with that Moon Pearl. They need magic to do that.
Yeah, I actually. Oh no, it is in Logic because we do have the blue cane. Because I think with the blue cane, it doesn't require you to have any bottles or half magic. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so the cape it does, because the cape uses a little more magic. We do get this nice check of the tablet here, and we're going to get to clear out the Tower of Hera here. Nice, fast crystal dungeon clear. It might not be that fast, though, because we don't have the Hookshot, so we can't do the Hera pot.
And no fire source, too. So.
And no fire source. So if it is, in fact...
Okay, well.
Bailed out a little bit. There could still be an item back there, but the lack of the fire source kind of, you know, absolves that from the runner's consciences a bit here. Now, the danger here is, given the items that we have, you know, we now have that Dark World access, so that opens up a lot of options, and that's what tends to happen in these seeds that are, you know, really heavy on early items, like the hammer and the gloves. If you have logical Dark World access, you know, as well as the flute and the boots, you have so many options of what things are reasonable to check that it becomes very hard to like read the seed's logic.
Oh, yeah.
It's much more likely to become a game of decisions and who made which routing choices over games of execution, which, you know, some runners would prefer that, especially if they're not super practiced on the execution side. But for most of the runners that we're going to see in this tournament, execution is just as important as anything else. So being able to get a read on the seed can be very helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's you know, routing decisions are pretty important, and if the seed's giving you a little bit more information than go anywhere, it helps a little bit to make decisions like that. And, Zelga did get a fairy, so this isn't as dangerous as it looks, but hopping in with only one heart here.
Yeah, I mean, you'd like to grab some safeties here. You know, you'd want to not use that fairy, but yeah, I think it'd kind of be a bad play to stop for pots. Grab some of those hearts, just because if you're going fast, you're going fast, you know.
Yeah.
You don't want to slow down for Moldorm. That's it's not where you want to lose even a little bit of time. It's pretty easy boss. It can be a little obnoxious, but it's not difficult by any means.
Yeah, it's nice if you have the hammer for sure. But looks like there was an item in the basement too. So the no fire source, like we were mentioning, they're going to be leaving something behind up here. We'll have to see if they ever decide to prioritize, like thinking this might be something important.
I mean, the good news with that is they can sort of leave that with a Spike Cave check too. You know, you've got Spike Cave and or Hera Basement, which is, you know, kind of a 1-2 punch of Hail Marys if you need it later on.
Yeah, I would imagine that after killing the boss, they got the magic refill that both of these runners would consider doing Spike Cave as their last check on the mountain before doing other things. And that, of course, depends on what they do find on East Death Mountain here.
Right. The problem is, if you want to go over to East Death Mountain, it's going to be a chunk of time to get back over to Spike Cave, regardless. Fear in the big boy room. It's a nice pattern on those Moldorms.
Yeah, he like killed them all in many different ways and finds a bow.
Yeah, Zelga not as lucky. Ends up only getting one. He's gonna have to clean up those two before leaving. But that bow is nice. That leads us over to. Ooh, Fear misses the bomb jump. Would have been nice to get that, because could have taken that back over and gotten to Spike Cave relatively quickly. Would have exited the top of the mountain there.
Yeah, it looks like Zelga is save and quit actually from there, heading back up.
Yeah,
to check
Zelga's going for it anyway. This is a thoroughness play. I do like it.
Yeah, interesting choice. You know, I think finding those invincibility items early, it does make sense that like the game might be saying, hey, by the way, you should check this out before you start doing other things.
Yeah, that can be dangerous. A dangerous way of thinking, though, because it really isn't necessarily so purposeful as all that. So it's sort of important to make sure you're weighing your options appropriately. I think this is a measured enough play, honestly, because again, this is a really long thing to trek back to. If that had been something important rather than bombs, it could very well have been the mitts.
Yep.
That's something you don't want to leave there. Or I think even worse would have been the fire rod if that had been there.
Ooh, yeah.
Because the mitts lock so much that you can't necessarily go for too long without them. But something like the fire rod can very easily hide in one of those one-off locations.
Yeah, I've always commented this in my own races and stuff on my stream that like fire rod's one of my least favorite go modes because it doesn't lock very much, but it locks a lot of bosses sometimes.
Yeah, if you end up finding the fire rod late, you can still have, if you have to go on a long hunt for it, A, can be a very long hunt, and B, after you finish it, you still have to do Skull Woods, you still have to do, if you haven't found the lamp, you have to do, Ice Palace, Turtle Rock, maybe Misery Mire, depending on big key locations. It can be really rough.
This was a really interesting play that Zelga did here. After doing Spike Cave, having no magic left, was able to set up fake powder without having to like do anything.
That's
special.
really heads up.
Yeah,
because fake powder is something a lot of people know about. If you have the cane and you have the mushroom, you can sort of combine the with the mushroom slot to confuse the game into tricking itself and giving you magic powder, because that's the same item slot, something memory addresses, and it's a common way to check that just in case. Get a little more mileage out of the mushroom before you turn it in and lose it forever.
Yeah, just another one of those magical things that red cane can do.
Yeah, and it's you do have to be out of magic though, so wrapping that in with Spike Cave is a really it's a really good way to minimize the amount of time that you lose by spending. It's a nice efficient expenditure of time. Fear Agent is a little bit ahead into the eastern pod area, but shoutouts to Zelga's routing acumen there. That's pretty top tier check combinatorics.
Yeah, and it is interesting to note too that Fear did Hype Cave on his way to Pod Eastern area and pulled out a Master Sword there, so he'll have that extra sword to just kind of make it smoother getting through the dungeons, like knocking out enemies in one shot instead of two, and whenever that comes up. But as far as the bosses go, both of these bosses aren't. It doesn't help that you have a better sword when you fight them typically.
Yeah, I mean the Master Sword can help a little bit for Helmasaur. Looks like Zelga's heading over here manually. Didn't feel like mirroring on the way over. Honestly, might have just forgotten momentarily to do it. Because this is definitely going to be a part where the wheels are turning in these runners' heads.
Yeah, that is kind of weird that, you know, went through the portal and then jumped all the way back down here. But
I mean, that's what I would have to imagine. Just sort of autopiloted through the maze and then realized, oh, you know, I should check that I have the mirror.
Yeah.
Because again, these runners are right now. They're really thinking about, okay, well, Pod Eastern, sure. Obviously, I just got the bow. I have everything else I need to do that. Let's do that. But what do I do after that?
Yeah, even though Pod is a pendant, you know, finding a bow like that does definitely make you wonder, like, if you don't find anything in Eastern or off of Armos, if Pod is hiding something, you know, whether it's bow locked or not, there could be something that the bow was meant to be grabbed as well.
Yeah, very interesting too that we have Pendant Mire, but we do have the flute already.
Yeah. It's nice to have that flute, though.
It's a little early to say, but you know, with that one medallion and the flute in hand, you know, Ped Seed could be on the table.
Yeah, and they have the book. They can go find out for us at some point if they choose to.
We're probably gonna have to wait until the Skull Woods dip before we find anything out about that, and possibly until the Skull Woods dip post Fire Rod.
Yeah, we don't have any fire sources yet. That is interesting.
Yeah, we don't have any fire sources, but if the flippers show up and we do find the mitts, without finding either of those fire sources, we could still go into Ice Palace since we do have Bombos. So we could definitely have the everyone's favorite Fire Rod locked by Bombos Medallion.
Oh, that never happens.
Ah, that's happened in this tournament.
Fearagent getting hit right up front in that fight. And,
okay, so those are out of logic. Those are out of logic mitts. So that's a fantastic item to get on Armos there. Like, I thought about saying earlier, you know, we don't really care about what's on this Armos Knight's boss because it's an out of logic check anyway. But that's actually very interesting because that means that either a lamp or well, wait, where was the big key? Was it in the vanilla chest there that Zelga opened?
No, it was earlier.
Okay, yeah. So Fire Rod would logically unlock those mitts. So one of those two items has to be showing up soon-ish.
Yeah, that was a really good recovery from that fight. I was going to say before the mitts popped was like, you know, he got bodied a little bit at the early part of the fight and then ended up still recovering and getting the quick kill.
So Fear probably going over here to finally get back and check Ice Rod Cave, which again isn't very painful with the boots and the flute in hand. And probably is going to set up a water walk and do some of those flippers checks.
Yeah, not a bad idea. Just 100 rupees short of Zora, which could feel bad depending on, you know, if he gets up there not finding any cash along the way.
Yeah, and I kind of do like this, leaving it for later, because this wasn't a good play before, you know, if you did this earlier, just because the mountain had so much potential value. That it didn't make sense to, you know, set up the water walk and do that instead of going to the mountain right away. But now that's all cleared up and, you know, sort of lacking any other super obvious solution, this is a nice density play to go for at this point.
Okay, Powder. Thank God he just turned in the mushroom and, oh, hi, Powder. And looks like he's making the play that you called earlier, headed into Ice Palace here from that waterfall check. And Zelga had a very nice fight as well on the Armos, setting up the quick kill and knocking them down, and is heading into Pod to check out what else this bow can possibly offer.
Yeah, this is actually not bad at all for Ice Palace. Bombos loses a little bit of time to Fire Rod. Fire Rod also can't be in here. Well, I suppose it could. It could be lamp locked, gloves with Fire Rod in Ice Palace. But regardless, it's a full clearable crystal dungeon, and he routed it in really nicely with that water block. So, other than the fact that it's going to be Master Sword or Hammer Cold Stare, not too bad.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too bad of a fight. I agree. Just got to be, patient. It's not going to be a super fast fight, but he'll probably do a relatively easy job of taking him down.
Yeah, the important thing too is to just keep moving no matter what. And again, if you can move doing interesting, we see Zelga going into pod. Fear didn't even touch pod. But yeah, so the main difference here, Fear is doing a crystal dungeon, Zelga is potentially wasting his time.
Fear gets the icebreaker first try every time. So 2 keys on the bow lock side of pod locks a fair bit of the dungeon.
Yeah. It also interesting to note that the nice peg skip there. I don't know what people call that. What is that? Stair clip?
I've heard it called pod clip.
I'm not up on my terminologies.
I just go with pod clip these days.
Either way, it extends the stair state so that the yeah, it's some other goofiness. Is that goofiness attributable to the Kingdom of Samaria?
It is actually, yeah. That's another Samaria trick.
Yeah, it's usually a fair, it's usually a fair guess because it's in the second to last dungeon. They really didn't expect you to use it for all that much. Like, who's gonna go back to Palace of Darkness after doing Mire?
People who like clipping rails.
It's true. But that was not Nintendo's target audience back in 1993.
Yeah, it looks like Ice Palace is coming up pretty dead so far, and it feels like Pod has shown us a bottle and not much else. So
yeah, and that comes out in favor of Fear Agent here for obvious reasons, because if nothing else, Fear's getting a crystal out of this.
And a single arrow.
It did go into the quiver, which I always consider a win.
Oh, and Ether was in pod. I missed that, actually.
Ether and pod. So yeah, that's it. The thing is, it can't necessarily be super huge because a pod dip is rarely a last location. It could be because you could go a long while without needing that Ether medallion.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Zelga has quicker eyes than I do.
Fear has bombos. I was trying to think of how is he gonna break the shell here, but yeah, bombos.
same way he got down.
Yeah, and Fear still has that fairy too, so this should be a pretty safe fight. Allows him to be fairly aggressive.
And Zelga's sort of got the dream set up for doing Desert Palace here. You got the mirror, you got the boots.
Yeah, no fire.
The flute. Yeah, no fire. But routing through the dungeon this way is really nice. Just because you can just check everything left to right and then just mirror back and then you're already where you want to be. Even if no fire shows up here, you still get to clear out the front, mirror out, go check Checkerboard Cave. Fear Agent is gonna be spending that fairy here.
Yeah, it took an unfortunate hit right around the middle of the fight, which 4 hearts of damage from getting hit by the puffs. So
yeah, at 7 hearts total, that's a no joke amount of damage. 1 hit away from death now. Yeah, definitely not going to be going for those hammer strats now.
And gets the job done. Oh, hi, Fire Rod.
Fire Rod. Okay, so Lamp is hiding somewhere. So Ice Palace paying out huge for Fear Agent here.
Yeah, he won't have to worry about fluting over to the desert area twice. I can imagine that might be his next stop, because it is a crystal, and like you said, having the ideal setup with the mirror and the flute. And the mirror allows him to get there. Did I say mirror? I did. Mirror, the flute, and the mirror. And get there the fastest way possible.
Yeah, and so it also looks like our tracker Serio X got the Quake medallion on Misery Mire there, so shoutouts to Serio.
Yeah, I feel like at this point the lamp could be in so many places that we might just not ever see it, the seed. I guess so many places that we might not have to check is
That's also the second out of logic progression item that we've gotten on a boss.
Yeah, it's true. The bosses are showing up today, playing some kind of ambrosia mode.
Neither the mitts or the fire rod are in logic yet. I mean, the lamp puts the mitts in logic.
True, yeah, you're right. Flippers are also needed.
And but the flippers are required to get to Ice Palace, you know, under normal circumstances.
Yeah, the game wants you to believe that. I think it's a conspiracy, though.
You got Hype Cave over here. Did Fear do Hype Cave before going to Pot Eastern?
He did, yeah, that's why Zelda was in there earlier.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Interesting one. I wonder where Zelga's maybe checking Bombo's tablet here, it looks like.
Yeah. It's the only reason to screen transition south here. It's you know, it's pretty heads up after finding that Master Sword, because that does make this item obtainable.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And having already checked the one up on the mountain, this is nice to get out of the way. You could be forgiven for wanting to route it in later with Swamp Palace, potentially.
Yeah, and it looks like that will be the case today.
Yeah, I imagine Zelga's actually just going to wrap around to the west side, since there's not really a whole lot we can do in Swamp Palace here without the flippers.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how far he's going to go with this routing before he decides to pull the trigger on the dungeon here.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Thieves Town being the first accessible clearable dungeon along this path, it is a pendant. Green pendant, but I imagine Zelga's not too eager to get back to that Pot Eastern area to turn in that green pendant, having, you know, completely cleared it out already.
Yeah, as far as things go, logically, there's no crystal dungeons left, but because of Fear doing Ice Palace out of logic, getting that Fire Rod from Cold Stare can do another crystal. So, you know, of course, that's where you're going to go next, right?
Yeah, and especially with getting those two specific items out of logic sort of in that specific way, you're almost not even worried about the fact that they were out of logic, because you know that the stuff to put them in logic is gonna show up eventually somewhere. You know, you're not worried that it's like, oh well, but how am I gonna find the flippers? It's like, well, given that you needed the flippers to get the fire rod, they're gonna show up. Don't worry.
Yeah, and Zelga finding a boomerang on Big Game. The red one, of course.
Yeah, who would bury the blue boomerang?
Yeah, and there was an item on the boss in Desert, but it was just 3 bombs, so nothing Zelga's missing by coming there later.
Imagine if there was another.
I know, that's what I was just thinking.
Another item progression on the boss.
Oh, pulls the next boomerang as his next check. That's cool. All the boomerangs for Zelga.
Like just imagine the ice rod or something being on Lanmo's there.
Or Quake. Then you have to make a choice. No, I don't think these runners would be going into Mire without being in logic for it at least until it, gets pretty late in the seed.
Yeah, it's a fairly quick dungeon to return to if need be, so you're not really losing much by gambling on not needing to go in there. There we get a green 20. That could be another bow or a armor upgrade at this point.
Yeah, but it feels like right now Zelga is prioritizing Overworld, and Fear is just trying to get dungeons out of the way as they become available, whether they're in logic or not.
Yeah, and it's sort of, there are two ways it can go, right? Because if all of the items are Overworld, well, then that actually just limits the options of whoever's going for dungeons. And if the items end up being in the dungeons, you end up with, that nice, beautiful route that Fear's got going on here. Flippers on Smith, that... Lamp's got to be somewhere easy.
Yeah, Lamp's starting to hard block a lot of things.
Lamp
could be.
Zora.
Lamp on Zora.
Because that's a really early available check that, technically it is just as available as that early glove was. All you need to get is money.
Yeah, we're running out of places for the lamp. You're right. I think Zora purple chest could be no.
I don't think it can be purple chest anymore. Because it contained 20 rupees, right color, but doesn't light things on fire quite as well.
Oh, Front of Skull Woods could have the lamp.
Yeah. And we're going to be seeing that from fearagent right about now.
Graveyard Legend Catfish? I guess that's it.
I disapprove of going into the front here first. I do like checking the middle chest of Skullwoods first, especially when you have the cane already.
So I think there's a choice in routing here that you can... Oh, hi, Ice Rod.
Nice, not bad, not bad.
But yeah, so I was going to say, I think there's a choice you can do here where if you go into the front first, and if you find the items, then when you go into the back, you can potentially skip the bridge chest and then just mirror flute and then go on your merry way if you're deciding not to come back through. But it's definitely a choice in routing.
Yeah, meanwhile, Zelga dipping into Ice Palace. In logic this time. Well, still, I mean, technically still not in logic, but now only, lamp away, which is an optional item as far as these runners are concerned.
Yeah, not very many lamp lock dungeons here today.
Just, unfortunately, having done pod already, is kind of trailing behind a little bit. And despite the fact that it looks like Zelga is quote-unquote late getting to this, I would say that this is very much more a big play from Fear rather than this is a much more standard, this is when most people would usually be getting around to this from Zelga's side. The pod play, the pod dip made a lot of sense. Pendant pod is always juicy. And almost anybody can be forgiven for not fake flippering to Ice Palace without the Fire Rod, with just Bombos for access. It's, you can, it's very reasonable to put that off. So Fear went in early and it paid off really big. And Zelga's going to be getting that Fire Rod a little late. Going to be making a lot of things pretty obvious, though, as Fear's going through Skull Woods here, having found that Fire Rod.
Yeah, I wasn't really paying attention to the keys. There might have to be a boss on Moth here. I believe there actually does have to be, because he doesn't have any keys. He
does have the big key already.
Yeah, and there was a small key in the big chest too. So he's grabbed a bunch of keys and he's out, which makes me think there's probably a key on bridge chest.
Yeah, he might have skipped one of the pot keys if he had a lot coming out of the front.
What are the odds there's a progression item on a boss?
He might have skipped the Gibdo key too.
Oh, it's a map. Okay.
Well, that progresses you to finding all the rooms.
Chat pointing out he did get both items in Skull. I was watching Zelga's side of it. It's hard to cross your eyes and watch two runners in different dungeons. Oh, and he can check ped here.
Yeah, checking ped makes sense. May as well. But yeah, this is just couch cash. So that I mean, it wasn't even a full clear of Palace of Darkness. Zelga didn't complete the boss, and it looks like that was a decent enough call. Isn't going to need that pendant for any reason. But right here, we're less than 45 minutes in, and Fear's only got 2 crystals left.
Yeah,
and
pretty
pretty obvious choice here. Go check TR. Maybe it's Bombos, and you can go straight in and clear the whole dang thing.
Yeah, find out and grab your Hookshot on Laser Bridge.
Yeah, but I mean, it's actually very likely that Hookshot is in TR right now, given what we as the spectators know about the seed. Because we, 2 out of 3 medallions. Where else are you going to look for that? Or where else are you going to look for that Hookshot?
Oh man, Zelga putting on a clinic on how to hammer Puffball.
Yeah, that was
wow.
Much quicker than Fear. But yeah, the TR play from Fear is, it is an extra mountain climb that is sort of lost in case you're wrong. But if you Galaxy Brain the Fire Rod early like that, after getting out of logic mitts, you feel like what's a mountain climb? That was a big play. A mountain climb is not going to be the end of your race in the long run.
Yeah, definitely.
It is Ether, though, so he is going to have to make that pod dip. But then the good news there, as I mentioned earlier, is, he can make that decision fairly easily. He's still up here to get to the Dark Death Mountain items. So it kind of does work out.
Yeah, it definitely feels like watching this race that Fear is down a game, and he is playing a lot more aggressive. Zelga is not leaving anything behind so far, and once you start to miss an item or two here and there, flippers on Smith isn't the first place you look for them. You said, Zelga for full cleared pod, Fear probably will too. So there's no time difference between those two choices at this point.
Yeah, the fact that Ether is required is really good for Zelga. Not just because he already has it in hand, but that means that all of the time that he's trailing behind, having done Palace of Darkness, is going to sort of disappear. We see Fear trying to do the hover strats here. Unfortunately for Fear Agent, nothing that he needs is going to be over here. These are logically locked by Hookshot, which is one of the items he needs.
I was just thinking that the only 2 things we need are Hookshot and Ether, and we know where one of those is, and Hookshot can't be here.
He's also going to need the flippers to finish Swamp Palace, but we know where those are as well.
Right.
He's going to try it again. Man, he really wants and I guess that's the danger of going with those out of logic plays. Very nice hovering though. That's not easy to do. You cannot let go of the dash for more than 1 frame at a time. So,
yeah, in order to get across that second bonk, it's a what is it called? It's a pixel perfect setup to do that bonk, and he just walked up and just did it. It was kind of nuts.
Yeah, that's practiced strategy. Yeah, okay, so he is now checking Hera basement. This could logically be the Hookshot.
Yeah.
But as I was saying, that sort of can be one of the dangers of going with those out of logic plays. Is sort of what we were saying early on in the seed. Is if you follow the logic, your routing decisions make a lot more sense. Because now Zelga has the flippers, has the Fire Rod now, is going to have Ether. So what options are available are a lot more clear, because you know exactly what you're supposed to have and how you were supposed to have gotten it. But then Fear ended up, very impressive, but ultimately completely useless hovering in Hookshot Cave because, he doesn't know if maybe he was supposed to get the hook shot before he got the flippers, because that's perfectly possible from his point of view.
True.
So it can be really tricky when you end up several items from logical go mode and you've skipped a few items logically.
Yeah, this is how you last location when when you're in a situation where you're playing aggressive, and you have to find items that are kind of in a weird spot. You have way too many things to do, and none of them are easy to chain because you're playing as aggressively as Fear is here. It's a tough place to be, honestly. Like, you gotta somehow big brain getting back to pod, getting
good
ether
on
out of
Fear
it, and getting flippers.
Good on Fear for clearing the entire mountain though, because you're up there in that situation. It makes a lot of sense to make the long play. And it's like, okay, well, I have one medallion. Maybe that's exactly the one I need for TR because I have everything else. When it's not, it can be very tempting for a newer runner to maybe, you know what? I think I'll cut my losses and go back and decide that this wasn't the correct play after all. I'd rather come back when I can do more stuff up here. But really, if you make the climb all the way up to TR, you may as well finish literally everything before you go back down. Which again is why he committed to the hover as well. Because if he needed to come back up there after Hookshot for the flippers, he wasn't going to get caught dead going up there a third time, just to check a Hookshot Cave to have to go back down to do swamp,
Yeah,
you gotta set the table for your supper a little bit.
And we saw Zelga just take down Moth with the hammer too. He's really putting that hammer to work. I feel like has he used it on every boss except for Armos? I feel like maybe Landmos, but really making use of that on making bosses faster here.
Yeah, and I'm gonna guess Fear is gonna be doing Smith Chain here, so that those flippers are going to be showing up. That's not as useful for Fear as he would like though, because all that really does for him is it puts his Fire Rod in logic, and gives him the option of a Swamp Palace dip. And when you're routing aggressively, if you're looking at Swamp Palace dip versus Hookshotless Swamp, Hookshotless Swamp is not completely unreasonable over Pendant Pod.
Yeah.
Especially if you're playing the aggressive game. So that could be dangerous for Fear.
Yeah, I mean, Zelga's going to get his Ice Rod here in the next chest that he opens, and the obvious next choice from his perspective will be heading up Dark Death Mountain. We'll be able to full clear TR.
Yeah, it's exactly the same scenario that Fear was in, but just because of the sort of the routing difference, how late he ended up getting to Ice Palace, he's already going to have the flippers, and he's already going to have either from doing pod earlier.
Yeah.
So just in a much better situation for this Dark Death Mountain, I'm like 80%, maybe 75% sure the Hookshot's in Turtle Rock right now.
It's feeling that way. I'm with you on that.
Did we see the front of Thieves Town?
Nope. I don't think any runner dipped it.
Neither of them. Well, okay, that's. I mean, I guess I can see it because they've got other things to do at the time.
Oh yeah, there's so much they have right now.
And there's the potential that there's no items in the front at all. So.
Yeah, it's one of those things people talk about. Like it's an easy choice to dip Thieves Town, but it's like, it takes time. Everything that you choose to do in this game takes time, and if you have other stuff that you could be doing from your perspective that makes sense to do, then you don't. There's other things that you can choose as well.
Yeah, so Fear finds those flippers that are not immediately useful. And Zelga is going to be heading straight into Turtle Rock.
I feel like Zelga will
Probably-
check the Dark Death Mountain checks first, though, because
Maybe.
if you find Hookshot, then you don't even need to do TR yet. You just go back, finish Swamp, and then come back here
Yeah, I
at
guess.
the end.
Probably not going to hover the Hookshot cave though.
That's a good point. What's my go mode item? Well, it's Hookshot. Let's go find it out of logic.
It does remind me of one time I was doing a co-op seed with a friend, and he had inadvertently rolled no logic instead of no glitches.
Ooh,
And
fun.
we were stumped for a while before we looked at the spoiler log to find where those dang mitts were, and it's like, oh, looks like they're in Ice Palace. Hold on a second. So yeah, Zelga grabs that piece of heart and is out of here.
Yeah, really good information from Zelga's side. Being as thorough as he was being early in the seed, able to just now be in Hookshot go mode, and Fear needs to get back to pod somehow.
Yeah, and the bad news here is he's got purple chests to turn in, and that's going to drop him off right next to Swamp.
That's true. But oh, looks like as he's fluting away, so
Okay, so then it's a lot more reasonable to not check Swamp because you're not going to be in the Dark World.
yeah. Actually, now he kind of has a choice.
Right. I would
Here to
imagine
go
you,
to a dungeon.
Yeah, I would imagine you flute here already, planning on going to pod instead. Because if you're even thinking about going to Swamp, you'd sort of not do this. You
What,
go here, flute to 5.
What's happened to
flute
Zelga here?
4. Oh, I think he's gonna check Thieves Town.
Zelga opened TR and left or something. Like he could full clear TR right now.
He could. I don't know. Maybe he. Yeah, I didn't notice. I noticed him go in. Did he just check one chest and dip?
I'm trying to remember if the Ice Palace
Palace
logic
big
was
key.
Hookshot lock.
Ice Palace big key was on the left side. I don't remember where the small keys showed up. But if Ice Palace is Hookshot locked, then the Hookshot cannot be fire. Cannot be in TR. Because if there are 2 ways to get over to that right side of Ice Palace in logic. One is to open the door with a small key and go in there, and the other requires the Hookshot. So if you don't have the Hookshot and you have the big key, which is logically required to get to the boss, there has to be a small key available on the left side.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Also, yeah, we got the shovel from King Zora. It's got to be the lamp.
Yeah,
like
I agree. I'm with you. It's the lamp.
900% has to be the lamp.
Yeah.
Okay, it is relatively rare for Ice Palace to be Hookshot locked, but it is possible for Ice Palace to logically require the Hookshot to complete. Ice Palace is full of a lot of things that are logically required, but not practically required for our runners. Mostly because of things like IPBJ and Icebreaker.
Yeah, you can get everything.
Got that swag dig. Another thing that's red, but not exactly the lamp. So where's that lamp?
It could be in the Dark World still. I think Catfish.
Catfish, yeah. The Zora of the Dark World. I wanted to come up with something that sounded a little less on the nose than that, but
okay. Out of curiosity, I did just check, and Ice Palace was not Hookshot locked.
all right. Something to be keeping in mind though, as you're doing this, because again, it can very much influence your decisions in a big way. Because you imagine an equal race between runners, and one of them has that knowledge, one of them doesn't. you might have somebody that checks just in case, and all of that ends up being wasted time. So it's really important to know your key logic in these races, because if you end up on one of those edge cases and you don't, and you do know, then you can save yourself a lot of time by eliminating options ahead of time, I guess is sort of what I'm getting at there.
Yeah. Definitely being able to read key logic helps you determine where an item can be.
Yeah, it's one of those things you can definitely, when you're starting out, you can get away with not knowing, for basically no consequence, because races usually are not going to come down to things like that. But between two runners like these guys, knowing that finding these two items right here in Mire, if you haven't seen enough keys, you can't find something in these chests or these chests. It can really streamline a lot of dungeon clears and make that trek to the last go mode item just enough quicker that Catfish still doesn't give us the lamp.
Yeah, I mean, another thing to point out is Zelga is one of the best cross keys players in the world, so I'm sure he would know if there was some kind of key logic going on there with, Hookshot being locking Ice Palace and not being available after the Fire Rod checks in TR. So I'm curious. I guess this is obviously we have to ask him about what his choice here was to leave TR.
Yeah, honestly, it probably came up because chat sees Zelga leave and immediately assumes that he's realized something about key logic that transcends our small brains.
Yep.
But back into TR, makes sense. A lot of items in here. It could still be in the in Swamp.
That's true.
Which honestly, Fear is going to be getting to that first, before Zelga at this rate.
Yeah, I'm wondering from Fear's perspective if this is kind of one of those. If it's in pod, my opponent probably found it situations. I'm gonna go there last. Like when you're racing, you have to think about. It's sort of a meta 1v1 thing that happens.
Yeah, at the same time, I'm not sure that's necessarily what you go for if you... I guess it wasn't that big of a play to find the Fire Rod early, because that was a very reasonable dungeon to go to at that point in the game. And there's
the Hookshot behind the Fire Rod, too. So question for chat. This will be on the final exam. Was Ice Palace Hookshot locked? Always fun to try and figure that out.
Obviously not,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, because the Fire Rod was Ice Palace locked, and the Hookshot was Fire Rod locked. You can't just create a triangle like that. There are no triangles in this game. But then, in the greatest twist ending of all time, this game does in fact have triangles. And here, Fear is dipping into Swamp, which Zelga will be able to go mode. So, just like that pod dip ends up making the difference, which is kind of hilarious because at the time it looked like Fear had made the far superior choice of which dungeon to go into at the time.
Yeah.
But it's just the way it goes with one of these things, especially when you have such free access to Turtle Rock. It does seem like it's kind of just giving it away to you, but it has so many requirements for entry that if you're missing just one of them, it can really swing things, because that Ether Medallion is the only thing standing between fearagent and like a sub 120 time or something ridiculous. I don't know if he would have been able to finish it that fast if he had been able to go in, like, say if it had been Bombos for TR. But it would have been jet seed of all jet seeds for Fear if that had been the case.
Yeah, he was up there at like, what, 50 minutes or something?
Yeah, it was recently. We'll say that. The Ether Medallion is in the Palace of Darkness, the medallion that creates a lightning storm hidden in the depths of the dark. Locked by the lamp that I still don't know where it is at this point. Like, I'm a little bit stumped. Where's that lamp?
It's not in Swamp Palace. Could be in Thieves Town.
Yeah, it could be in the back of Thieves Town. At this point, that's honestly probably where it is. So that's about the only thing we haven't seen from either runner at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw Catfish. We saw everything except Thieves Town.
Yeah, it could be left side swamp here. Fear might be about to.
No, because the flippers were locked.
Oh, they weren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been a weird.
I always remember that. I never forget that I can't do Smiths before I get the mitts, but I often forget it in reverse. You know, having already done Smiths, I kind of forget that I would have needed mitts first.
Yeah.
Which is a totally acceptable way to lapse in your logic knowledge, is after it doesn't matter anymore. I remember logic when it counts.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things, like, you know, if you're going out of logic, you got to remember what's out of logic to try and help make sense of, you know, where the things that you might need can be. Like,
of course, fearagent here isn't looking for the lamp.
Yeah,
fearagent is very much looking for Ether Medallion, which is never logically locked by anything really, unless it's, you know, it can be in a dungeon that it locks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so nothing in Swamp, as we all kind of already knew. But he's got to make his way to Pod now.
Yeah,
that's where we know he has to go, and it's this is rough to see.
Yeah, and just like that, Zelga has taken the crystal lead.
Yeah, all he's got left is Go Mode Swamp Palace, and then
yeah, this is rough for Fear, because Fear's got to find that medallion, go back up to TR.
That's
and
true.
Then come down and do what Zelga's doing now, because Zelga has a clear lead right now.
Yeah, that's true. Do you think if Fear finds a medallion, do you just leave? Like, you know what? Hookshot's probably in TR. I got to go find it. Or it's like, well, crap. Like, I'm still looking for Hookshot. Do you just full clear Pod at that point, or do you tell yourself, nah, it's probably in TR. I'm out. I'm gonna go check it. It's a crystal. I can do it.
I kind of feel at that point in a last location journey, you full clear the whole thing, because, you know, at that point you still sort of have to hold out hope that, you know, your opponent also ended up putting off the Pod dip and ends up finding it late, but you cannot expect that your opponent is going to you know, double dip Pod.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
So you kind of have to protect yourself from that at the very least. It's kind of the reason nobody ever checks tile room in GT, because like you never feel like you're gonna be like that far behind that you're gonna like absolutely need something like that. You're gonna, you know, you'd rather lose than need to make up the time that way. Because if you don't need to make up the time that way, then you sort of put yourself in at a disadvantage if you check that chest first. But that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. Zelga's got an entire Swamp Palace to clear before that guessing game officially opens up.
Yeah, and it's interesting to point out that, you know, the reason Fear left Pod where Zelga did not was that when Fear went to Pod, when Fear entered the Dark World, he entered through Hype Cave and ran over to Pod, opened it up, and then got Saha's Closet, did Eastern, found the mitts, and then decided, you know, I've got Master Sword now, I've got mitts, I can do Ice Palace, I'm gonna go check that out, and started finding a lot of progression really quick. But the one thing he didn't find was ether in pod, whereas Zelga, ended up going to pod next after Eastern and found that ether, which Fear just found here. So it looks like that wasn't locked by anything. Actually, the ether was in the Stalfos room, which there was a small key in the front, so that was open as soon as they had Dark World access.
Yeah. So, no, still mitts. I was like, lamp could be in Turtle Rock. Nope, it couldn't be. Yeah, at this point, it's honestly probably back at Thieves Town somewhere. Nice quick kill on that phase 2 Argus there. Pulls another.
Yeah, very nice. 7 crystals.
20. That is, in fact, 7 out of 7 for currently in the lead Zelga. So this is Zelga's match point, and right now it's Zelga's match to lose. As we open our big key guessing game, which I think is still officially out of commission. So
yeah. Yep, no bot.
The internet points are even more imaginary than normal, but no less valuable. Now, I recall in the Challenge Cup Discord, there was a discussion going on about the various GT routes and how much time on average it takes to find the big key for each of them.
For each of the runners?
No, for each of the different ways that you can progress through
the
that
routes.
Dungeon. Yeah, the different routes. Interestingly enough, the one that's the shortest maximum time to completion is the one that doesn't do tile room last. But yeah, all of that put aside here, the only one that really matters is the one that gets you to the big key first.
Yeah, so where do you think it's going to be? What's your favorite choice?
My favorite choice is always 3 for checking tile room third, even though nobody ever does it.
3 for I like that.
But when somebody does do it and it's right, I'm going to be prepared. That's sort of my logic there. It's always putting your money on the double zeros at the roulette.
On both zeros or just the one?
Oh, just one of them.
Oh, just the one. Okay.
You got to call your shot.
True.
Of course, I publicize this so much that nobody's going to think my brain is big at all when it finally does happen. But here we go. Hope. I imagine we're going to see full right here, unless Zelga goes straight for this. But that is a fire rod, not a cape. So yes, straight through tile room it is, like the smart cookie that Zelga most certainly is. Yeah, there is not a world where you find that hookshot there after making the pendant pod dip to find ether, and in any world think that you could possibly be behind enough to benefit from a tile room play.
Yeah.
Just that's sort of just a mathematical truth of how long it would take anybody to beat the seed, having gone through that specific item routing and being in GT at 112. You're not thinking you're in dire straits at all. So Zelga's probably feeling pretty good here. Who knows where Fear is? Because Fear is just as good of a runner as Zelga is.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you don't, especially after kind of making the mistake the way he. You gotta know that was a mistake to have left TR when he did, and then realize, oh crap, maybe Fear is on my path, and
yeah,
didn't do what I did there.
Well, now we can go to Meyer. Maybe the big key's in there.
Love finding that fourth medallion. Third medallion. Sorry, Get your complete coin collection.
The fourth medallion.
The fourth medallion. Right?
The fourth medallion from Ocarina of Time.
Suddenly key sanity.
Oh, take note, any new runners, that boomerang strat is very quick, but it does take some practice. So it's not super hard, but if you start your practicing now, you too can be as cool as Zelga. It's swaggy and fast, everybody's favorite kind of strat.
Yeah, I was about to agree with that. It's like, yeah, and it's swaggy. Wow, this is a pretty deep, big key here.
No, if it's tile room, it's not that deep. It's only 3 checks deep.
Good call. That's true. It's in the first.
It's in the third room. And
not
Fear
even small
picks up
key
that hook shot.
Ah, now Fear is in go mode.
We did end up finding that big key. I didn't see it happen, but apparently it was number 15.
All right, 15. Let's see. I'm sure we had a 15, right? Tallwin 7 was the first to guess, and and 09273. So congrats to you both for being correct on a random guessing game.
What are the odds?
What are the odds?
1 to 22. Or I suppose odds would be 22 to 1. Right? Is that how it works? 21 to 1?
I think 21 to 1, right?
Yeah, I'm never sure how odds work. I'm no gambler. I just play randomizer. The only thing you lose there is pride, and Lord knows I don't have any of that to lose.
So let's just real quick, because while we're sitting here watching Zelga completely destroy the Gauntlet and Fear, get through TR and doing a good job as well. Where was that lamp? Everything we saw, I think we saw everything between the two runners except the back of Thieves Town.
Yeah, I think it has to be there. And that's sort of another thing where you sort of get used to those locations that the lamp can hide. If it's not in those sort of early free overworld checks, because there are a couple places it can be. Ice Palace is one of them. It's almost always an appendant dungeon in a seed like this, where it just refuses to show up.
Oh yeah.
But, it does. You don't need it for Thieves Town. You don't need it for Ice Palace. And you don't need it for Swamp. So those are some dungeons that you can easily see it in. Now Ice Palace would have been off the table because of the mitts, but those are some common, unusual places for it to be, as weird as that phrase might sound.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And our tracker, Saber UX, pointing out that the only thing that we didn't see between the two runners was back of Thieves Town or Green Pendant. So that's a place for a lamp.
And of course, yeah, that sort of highlights one of the things that didn't really become relevant in this seed, but Thieves Town, notoriously easily clearable. Let's say it has literally just the dungeon itself has one clear requirement, and that is, do you have an item that can hurt blind? And a bomb.
There's plenty of bombs in Thieves Town, right?
Yeah, nobody said it was a hard quiz. Yeah, and we got parallel bosses here a little bit.
Yeah, and Zelga not opening the validation chest, but trying to go fast. Makes sense.
That was a decent second pattern. Yeah, it's a very good second pattern. Nice
Not
triple.
bad. Triples are
So
never
now I think a
bad.
double will take it off. And there it goes. 1, 3, 2. Ooh, some synchronized tinking. And on to the Ganon fight. With a little scant on, you know, bottle content, I think. I don't think Zelga's used that fairy yet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't.
Yeah,
Did we see that?
he died on so long ago. Trolldorm.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I
and,
know. I know.
Fear
Fear,
Agent
I know.
taking
Fear
out
lost
Trina.
his to. Yeah, Fear lost his to Cold Stare. Gets the Trident spin. Nice double hit. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see if you're taking it out here, because this is definitely a fight that Zelga has done many times.
Yeah, very nice 1-1 from Zelga there.
Yeah, not trivial with the Tempered Sword. Not trivial at all, especially without the nice teleport next to a wall, so you can just spam the spins for that second phase. It's a lot of the Tempered Sword Ganon fight and making it fast is about making sure you know how to take advantage of those suboptimal teleport locations.
Yeah. Yeah, and nailing the torch glitch with Fire Rod too. That's definitely a practiced motion there. It's not a free thing compared to the lamp where you can just spam it out.
Yeah, there are some visual cues you can go by if you go by when the last tile goes out. Until that was pointed out to me, it was really hard to sort of track when that torch actually goes out.
Oh yeah, that same with me. I had a race on ladder against someone who was very nice to do that, and was like, "Hey, you could have done this." So. But get your GGs in chat for zelgadissan.
But that sword is up in the air, which means that he hopefully. I'm pretty sure the sword being up in the air means that you're not going to fall prey to the spooky bridge not showing up thing, and sure enough, there it goes. It's an official time of 1 hour, 21 minutes, and 3 seconds. So yeah, my sub 120 guess earlier would have been very, very correct. Just over 121 right here. So GG's to Zelga. Knocking out Fear Agent from the tournament.
Yeah, get your GGs in chat for Fear Agent. Has officially forfeited the race after finding his opponent has finished.
Yeah, unfortunately for Fear Agent, single elimination bracket means that's the end of the tournament run. But it was an exciting race for sure. We are joined by the racers themselves, Fear Agent and Zelga. GG's, you guys.
Hey, GG's, thank you.
Yeah, GG's.
So that was a roller coaster of emotions watching that one.
I bet. I feel like these are the kind of the fun seeds where I'm sure we were kind of both in different places a lot of time.
Sure.
Oh yeah,
information of like where everything, like you guys probably hit node mode way before we hit go mode, but I don't know. I'll say this. It was a fun seed. It's just you had a lot of choices, and if you make the wrong choice, then you're kind of boned. But it's fun. It's way better. I'll take this over our last seed we played for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens pretty much every time you get early glove, early hammer, early moon pearl.
Yeah. So Fear Agent, how does it feel to find boots in a seed?
Love it. Those early boots, love it. I'll take. Like I said, this was a fun race. It didn't go my way, but I don't have really much to complain about.
Yeah, I mean, because it really looked when you two were in when you Fear were in Ice Palace finding the Fire Rod, and Zelga was in Pod finding nothing but maybe ether. It was really looking like one person had made a much smarter decision than the other. But as it turns out, the way the cards fell, you needed that either to get into Turtle Rock, and the way the rest of the items showed up, it made Pod a less and less attractive play as it went on.
Yeah, I think we need to. Can we ban medallions? Because I feel like both of our races, I had the wrong medallion at the wrong time. Like if I could get into, if I could have gotten Turtle Rock, I think I would have been all right in this race. And then last race, if we didn't need, I can't even remember what medallion it was last time, but I think it was Bombos last time.
Yeah, standard start, but Back of Escape always has all 3 medallions.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds fair.
No, I GG Zelga. This was like a super scary matchup because everyone knows how good Zelga is, and I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Zelga wins this whole thing, gets his name on the Houlihan room because he's that good, and I just like racing Zelga. Zelga's like a good person, and I don't know, just an awesome member of the community. So racing him is always really fun and a little bit scary. So,
I mean, I appreciate the kind words. Like I was saying to you in the race room, this was a scary matchup to me. Absolutely. I mean, everyone in this tournament, especially as you get further and further, is going to be a scary matchup. But like looking at this as I was coming in as a potential looming matchup, I was like, oh man, don't make me play Fear. It's going to be awful. But it is fun, absolutely, every time. But yeah, it's a very stressful matchup. I'm happy to be moving on. I'm sad that you have to go, but I'll look forward to the more races in the future.
Yeah, so
sure.
after we pump Zelga up there, we do have to ask what happened at when you first went into TR.
Yeah, I was waiting for that. I'm surprised that it took this long. So as I'm climbing Death Mountain on my way to Turtle Rock, I start thinking to myself, hey, Ice Palace, the big key was in the compass chest. That means that the dungeon is hook locked, the fire rod on Cold Stare. If there's nothing in, like if the hookshot's not in the first chest or the key or something, if there's not a key in Turtle Rock, it's my hookshot cannot be in Turtle Rock. So then I get that and I'm like, okay, sweet. I guess I bail now because I could do Turtle Rock as my last crystal in a guaranteed go mode. I get my hookshot for that sweet torch room on the right, save some time. And then as I'm doing all those other checks off the mountain, as I'm going, like I do Zora and all that crap, I'm going to Thieves Town. I'm like, wait a second. The compass room was a small key. The big key was vanilla. It was not hookshot locked at all. I'm a gigantic moron. So then I was like, I should probably go back to Turtle Rock.
Yeah,
that was a solid 5 minutes, I think.
The funniest thing is basically everybody in chat like instantly knew exactly what you were thinking. Because like everybody started saying, "Wait, was Ice Palace hookshot locked?" Because that's also the great thing about doing these races. Is you've got that great hive mind of chat that always sort of knows everything, but is large enough that they're never entirely sure. But that was sort of what we imagined. It had to do with that. Where could hookshot be?
Yeah. Honestly, funny enough, if that chest was a key instead of a piece of heart, I probably just go ahead and continue through the dungeon and then get the hook shot, and it blows my mind for a second. And then like, oh, okay, well, sweet, I'm in go mode now, but I didn't really think it could be there, and then I stop and think about it and figure it out. But
well, hopefully you would keep going and think about it. You're good at thinking on your feet.
Right, and it was when it was an item and not a key and not a hook shot, I was like, well, I guess I just bail. It's hook shot locked. Nope.
Yeah, but the winner of this match is going on to face who in the bracket? Let me pull that up quick.
I can already go ahead and tell you. It'll be the winner of Alizon and the Boulder.
Ooh, pretty fun.
Yeah, they don't look like they've done any of their matches yet.
To be fair, we're like pretty far ahead. We just kind of went right at it.
Well, you are, the examples for everybody in this tournament. It's really hard to run these tournaments and get everybody's schedule lined up. But this has been running really smoothly. In all honesty, people have been really, really staying on top of stuff. So shout outs to everybody in this tournament.
Yeah, I did have one more question I was curious about too for both runners. because this was the major point of divergence, is that both runners, well, Fear Agent went to Hype Cave before Pod Eastern, and Zelga went straight to Pod Eastern. And after you both opened Pod, you both did Eastern first, but then Fear Agent left, and then Zelga went into Pod. What was the choice of those two decisions? I'm curious about.
For me, it felt like without the flippers, I still didn't have great options. Like, obviously, you can sequence break Ice Palace, and I considered it when I got the mitts. But then, to me, it was just kind of like, I know flippers are hard required because Swamp's a crystal, so I felt like I should probably just stay in the area. I was missing so many things. Like, I don't think I had any medallions. No, I had Quake, but I didn't. Not Quake. I had Bombos. Yeah, I had Bombos. But then no rods, no flippers. So it's like, I should probably just stay here and see what's in the area while I'm already here. That was kind of the thought process.
I felt the exact opposite. I was like, there's so much open. I mean, I haven't been to Thieves Town. That whole Thieves Town area is open. Mitts opens up like the Mire and desert stuff, and there's still Dark Death Mountain. I don't know. I felt like there was a lot of stuff available regardless of the flippers. Like, I didn't put too much weight on the flippers. I think that might have been the difference, because I went straight to Ice Palace. So
cool. That's interesting. Yeah, so another thing to point out, we all know the entire seed was lamp locked, and from what we saw, the lamp was either in back of Thieves Town or on Green Pendant, which is kind of a hilarious place for lamps. So
yep.
That's interesting. That I really thought someone would have found the lamp, but I guess not.
No, the fire rod's locked by the mitts, and the mitts were locked behind Armos Knights. So it couldn't be anywhere mitts locked. And the only thing I have left is Thieves Town.
yeah, because also the flippers were locked behind the mitts, so
Right.
couldn't do flipper checks, and same with Hookshot. So. Yeah, and that was another unfortunate thing, Fear, when you got up to Hookshot Cave and we knew where stuff was. It was like, crap, hovering this is not going to pay off today,
Sure.
because the Hookshot.
I was still looking for flippers and ether at that time, so I don't know. I was able to clear out the entire mountain.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying it was a bad play from your perspective or anything, but we knew, of course, knowing everything, we're like, ooh man, this is gonna spend time. But
if I had known, I would have gone to Pod. But
if only.
And then once I put off Pod, it was basically that was gonna have to be my last location. I felt because I chose again. Once I got off the mountain, I had Pod and all of the overworld, and I was like, well, I don't know. And since I didn't choose Pod, I knew it was going to basically have to be my last thing. That's why I dipped into Swamp. But
that makes sense.
It happens.
One other thing to shout out to, when you did hover, you got the first hover, and then you kind of yellowed the bonk and just nailed it first try. Like, is that something you're comfortable with? Just I think it's a pixel perfect setup, right? To bonk to the third chest.
What's nice about the Minish cap or Minish sprite is those hard edges allow me to line stuff up pretty quickly. So
cool. So it's something you're comfortable knowing, I got this, I'm just doing it. Cool.
I mean,
that was really good.
I'll fail it every once in a while, but I'm pretty comfortable with it. So
well, yeah, GG's again to both runners. That was a hell of a race. Too bad it all came down to the ether and Pod, but for anyone watching, anyone enjoyed the race, please, give a follow to the runners. Links are posted in chat. And then also thanks a lot to Esmar for co-comming with me, and SaberUX for tracking. Always tip your trackers, as I like to say. And do you guys have anything else to say that you want to share, or anything else about the seed or tournament?
Well, this is my goodbye. So goodbye, everyone. Yeah, and just GG's. Thanks to the comms and the trackers, of course, for doing this, and good luck to Zelga. Really rooting for you for sure. And see you in the league. Hopefully, get a little revenge there.
Yeah, sounds good. GG's again, and echoing. Thank you guys for doing the commentary, the tracking, restream. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll look forward to catching you in the league or the ladder, anywhere I can get some races with you. It's always a great time for you. So
For sure. Yeah, I'll definitely see you on the ladder.
sweet.
Well, thanks a lot. That's going to do it for us tonight, folks. And, looks like we will have some no more races tonight. There will be the next race I see on the schedule will be tomorrow at 9:10 Eastern time. Humbug versus New York Rambler on SpeedGaming channel. So tune in to see that race. And I hope everyone enjoyed and have a good night.